Well, if you watch the extra point, you know it's won in the trenches. So let's talk to a guy who plays in the trenches. Ben Coleman, you're starting left guard for the Arizona State Sun Devils. A live visit in studio. It's good to see you. Thanks for coming in. And how's the offseason training going? I
appreciate it. The offseason training is going well. Coach Joe Connolly, really one of the best in the business. So I think it's a blessing that we have him on staff. He keeps us competing with each other, energy high, and I think details is the most important.
Well, Kenny Dillingham had some fun with you guys the other day, saying that a video game was on the line for a planking contest. As a veteran here, did you know there was a prank on the other end of that deal?
I felt like it was a little bit fishy. So I went down, got my little 5-second plank, got up. Everybody kind of asked, why did you not, go longer for the plank? I said, I don't really play video games anymore. I'll probably give the game to my cousin. So I was like, no worries, because I felt like something was fishy, and it was.
Well, I mean, when was the last time a lineman had to plank, or that matter, run a 40-yard dash?
Yeah, I can't remember either, but I think some people found out, and I think some people pushed themselves farther than they would for a video game. So if we ever have to plank in an actual workout situation, I think the standard is going to be pretty high.
I think you can stick to the bench press and getting to the table there and moving people. So tell us a little bit about your game, what we're going to see this fall when you line up for the Sun Devils.
I mean, I think most importantly, I just mentioned details, right? I think it's more of a mental game than physical. I know people don't really think that way, especially when talking about football. But I think it's just a more mental game. Who is your opponent, right? What is his strengths? What is his weaknesses, right? Know yourself, know your weaknesses. So I think it's really important. From just a mental aspect, I feel like that I'm very ahead than most of my opponents. Obviously, that comes through studying, football IQ. Obviously, my dad played in the league for, right under a decade. So I think, a little bit of football IQ kind of came down the totem pole. But of course, physicality, fast, I think those are two things. And of course, strong. But those are the qualities that you expect from an offensive lineman. So I'm excited.
Well, you mentioned studying. You already have your degree. You're a Cal transfer. So what is it like hitting the books, and how important is it for you to not only have that degree, but be pursuing another one?
Well, I think it's kind of funny, having the same amount of degrees as eligibility left. And I never really thought I'd be able to really say that, but I think it's just kind of how it worked out, and it's a blessing, right? I think we're fortunate as athletes. You get to go to school, you get a scholarship, you get your school paid for. Education is very important, so I think that was kind of just a blessing for me to kind of be in that situation. So 2 degrees down, I have a third one I'm working on, and so, hopefully we can get that done before we finish up.
And one of those is in communication, so I think we could see you maybe hosting a show like we're doing here down the line once the football career is finished. It's also a very strange time to be a college athlete. We talk about it a lot with NIL, and how does that work for you, knowing you can profit off your name, image, and likeness and going out and pursuing that?
I just think it's a blessing. I honestly feel for guys, even having conversations with my dad, he thinks about, he was All-American at Wake Forest. So even think about, the money that, other guys would have made. You think about guys like Reggie Bush, right? Big talk of the town, with everything and the Heisman and everything. So I think it's just a blessing now. I think that, all kids, from, freshmen all the way to the older veterans, that just make sure you're being responsible with everything. Just understand that I think we're just very privileged as athletes. So I think it's important to really realize that, every morning, you look in the mirror and notice that it's a blessing to have NIL. We have a great collective, sunedgecollective.org. Of course, please go donate and get yourself involved, because we have a lot of good stuff that we're cooking up over there on that side. But I think that's the biggest word. It's a blessing to be able to have the opportunity to obviously market yourself and then be compensated for it.
If I had a barbecue restaurant, I would have the entire Arizona State offensive line over there. Have you had anybody reach out about that?
I haven't. I would love to. I would love to. I mean, my personal favorite is Mac Daddy Wings and Cheese, from what I think is the best, wing place in Arizona. So I think that's, if anybody has any barbecue places, I think the O-line would love it, and we'd have a blast.
All right, so tell us about the offensive line this year. Kenny Dillingham, year 2, you didn't get to play last year, rehabbing from an injury. So what's sort of the personality of this line, and how can this offensive line help get this program to where it wants to go?
I think it's just a new identity. Coach Sagatuateli is our O-line coach, hard-nosed guy. Everything is detail-oriented. That's kind of why I harp on it. But I think it's really important to develop that identity in the offseason now, right? So that's why we always talk about being able to hang out with each other, know each other. We have to know everybody's name, hometown, high school, and then sometimes he throws in a fun fact. And then, he asks us at random points in times in meetings, hey, you stand up, what's that guy's name? hometown, and of course where he's from. And so I think that's just the biggest thing. We call ourselves 1SB, and that's something that we keep tight knit. So I'll keep that close for now. But 1SB, I think is important to us, and we created that identity last year with some veteran guys that are not with us anymore that moved on, and then some guys that are still here. So we're excited. We're deep as far as depth wise, and I think that was our issue last year. So a mix of vets, guys that have played that maybe aren't quite vets yet, and then of course young guys that are coming in that are excited to learn and full of energy.
All right, SB, I've got some guesses, but I don't have a real good guess, so I'm going to have to catch you at practice come August.
No doubt.
As far as your own personal journey, you didn't get to play last year, so suffered an injury when you got here. Mentally, that's got to be very challenging not getting to play. How did you get through it, and how did that injury maybe make you appreciate what you have in front of you right now?
Well, it's kind of funny. My senior year of high school, the same thing kind of happened.
Yeah.
We went on the championship run. It was very clear. They bumped us a couple divisions in California down. And my head coach knew, like, if he bumps divisions, this is our more stacked team that we've had in 4 years. We're going to run the table. Spring ball, running, cut, and tore my ACL. So a similar thing happening, right? Running, condition, and, rupture my Achilles. So I think that was tough. And the timelines were very similar for some reason. But I learned a lot, about being patient, right? Having perseverance. Trusting the process of what you have in front of you, right, that you put in the work. And then essentially I just told myself to win the battle each and every day when it comes to rehab. Mark Kiger was my PT guy. We had a great relationship and still do, but I think he's more of a real overall life therapist. And I really think that also that the female student athletes at Arizona State can really attest to that, because I just really saw him, really develop more into like a therapist each and every day for those women that, have the same injuries, right? ACLs, Achilles, the big time injuries. So I think it was important just to win each and every day. And then eventually that, that'll accumulate and then lead to where it is now.
How much will you think that will help you in the rest of your life? The whole metaphor of football is the metaphor for life. Mm-hmm. So how much is going through that process going to help you and maybe even like raise some kids someday going through a hard time?
I think more just worry about today, worry about the present, right?
Yeah.
And don't worry about what's in the past, don't worry about the future, obviously to prevent some of that anxiety that comes naturally, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's just each and every day, they always talk about the first thing you do is can make your bed, right? That's the first one you can have, right?
Yep.
Second one you can have, brush your teeth, or whatever your routine is, take a shower. And I think that's just most important, right? Win that first thing of the day and just attack it as it goes on.
What was that first hit like when you got to get back out there, you got to put on your helmet and your shoulder pads, and you got to hit somebody?
Well, Coach Dillingham always will put you in a situation, right? He always wants to see what you're made of. So we have things called team comps, right? In the middle of practice, it can be at any time. It can be something as simple as he, wheels out a basketball hoop and makes people shoot, and play horse. Or it could be a one-on-one rep. And so that's what mine was. And so being able to win that one-on-one rep, I think it just gave me a lot of confidence, right? It wasn't even a fully padded practice. I knew it was coming. The way Dillingham forces guys to compete. And I'm a competitor. I like to compete too. And so he was waiting for me to see. I was able to kind of have my O-lines back last year and talk a lot of smack on the sideline to the guys who maybe weren't as vocal, to the D-line guys. So they were kind of waiting on me to come back to see, if the talk kind of matched the skill. And it definitely did. Yeah,
and long-term goals for you going through the injury and seeing your dad play in the NFL, is that the goal here long-term to follow his career path?
100%. I always wanted to repeat, what he's done. That's why I wear 62.
Yeah.
And he never, put pressure on me. I think that's really important for most parents to hear is, putting pressure on the kids. And a lot of parents, they kind of want to live through their kids. And my dad did the opposite, and I'm very thankful for that. He always told me, when you're ready to play, when you're ready to be a man, when you're ready to take this thing seriously, you let me know. And I remember walking, he was at his computer, he sat at his computer a lot, doing a lot of things, and I walked up to him and was like, I'm ready to take this thing serious. And he was like, well, if you're ready, then let's go. And so I think that was about maybe sophomore year of high school.
Yeah. So did you play football until your sophomore year of high school, or were you doing other stuff?
No, always football, always football. Played basketball. Every football player thinks they can hoop.
Can you though? Can you?
I mean, everybody says they can. Everybody says they can. There's a lot of debates. There's a lot of debates with some other offensive linemen. Max is his name. I'll leave it at that. But it's a lot of debates with other offensive linemen about who's the best hooper. Kyle Scott is another offensive lineman. So I'm not afraid to put them under the bus there. But I think every football player thinks that they have the athleticism to just do everything, which I think is important.
All right. So this season with Arizona State, people are excited. It's a new deal. It's the Big 12. It's Kenny Dillingham's second year. How would you kind of articulate what it's like being inside the locker room, inside the weight room every day, getting ready for that season?
Well, I think with Coach Dillingham, just energy. Being a young coach is a blessing. I tell the younger guys all the time, being able to have this young coach is a blessing. The way he essentially, can develop and bring everybody in as far as the younger class. Having an older coach, he just may not be able to relate, right? He can try as much as he wants, but, and Dillingham being an ASU grad, he wants to be here. So I think that's important for, our players and all recruits to know that Coach Dillingham wants to be here. This is where his family is. He went to Chaparral High School, which is also where my mother went. And so I think it's just very important for guys to understand is that when you have a guy at the helm like Coach Dillingham who really wants to be here, and he wants to win here, I think that's just, once again, really important for everybody to understand that it's honestly a blessing. And we're fortunate to have a coach like that because, some people use any job as a stepping stool to get to another job. As far as, especially monetary value, Coach Dillingham knows for a fact that everybody can attest that he doesn't care about the monetary value of contracts and everything. He wants to coach ball.
Yeah, and talk to me about ball. The next 1, maybe 2 years here, what's it look like for you on the field to have a successful time here at Arizona State?
Once again, details and taking it day by day.
Yeah.
I think it's most important to trust my coaches, trust myself, and just trust the process. The process is long, right? It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So I think most importantly is, hey, sit back every once in a while, take a deep breath, and then once again, take it all in. We're moving to a new conference. You only be in college one time. You only be playing football one time on these away stadiums. I love playing at away games because the fans are rowdy there against you. But at the end of the day, we're all coming to see a good football game. I think it's also important we have some former teammates, with the mixing of conferences and the transfer portal. You have teammates that go to, former teammates that go to other schools that you have the opportunity to now compete against. And so I think that's fun to be able to compete against them, talk a lot of smack before the games, then to be able to link up after to see those guys again.
Are you a talker in the trenches? Just tell me something. If I were to line up against you, what would you say to me?
You know what? Mark, I couldn't tell you too much. But I will tell you this. A lot of people think that I talk a lot because in practice, right, I try to make it as fun as possible. I don't care what anybody says. Practice is what needs to be done, right? And you do whatever you need to do to prepare to complete the day. But you got to find ways to really get through it, especially the hard days when you think about fall camp and things like that.
Yeah.
People think I'm lying when I say that. Hey, I don't really chatter much during the game because I'm a firm believer that you can talk smack, but it's coming right back. The very next play can come right back. So.
What's the Steph Curry? You can shimmy, but you got to be prepared to get shimmied on.
100%.
All right, and just you get to do something that not many people get to do. Be physical. If you do that on the street, they'll throw you in jail. I mean,
right.
Are you appreciating just every day getting to show up and just run into people as hard as you can?
Yeah, I just think it's so simple. I know people think football's so complicated. I know we've been playing the game for a long time. I know we get up and do it every day. But I just say it's very simple, right? You line up, and you either win the rep or you lose the rep. And you line back up again and do it all over again. So I think that's the beauty of the game, right? I think we talk about life lessons. You'll win some, you'll lose some, but you live to fight another day.
All right, message to Sun Devil fans. Let's end with that. What's your message to Sun Devil fans about this upcoming season?
I think tune in, support. You have a great coach. You made the right choice, and the players that you guys have recruited, he's really embodying the culture of what Coach Dillingham wants.
All right. Get this man an NIL barbecue endorsement deal.
Let's do it.